In just 48 hours, Japanese whaling vessels can haul up dozens of massive whales, each weighing more than 30 tons. It looks unbelievable. Shimmering ocean waves, polished harpoons, and precision teamwork. But behind every catch lies a brutal battle against the sea. Danger and centuries of controversy. What appears to be luxury seafood on the plate once began as a fight for survival on the open ocean. Deep in the North Pacific and Antarctic waters, Japan's whaling fleet sails thousands of miles from shore, facing freezing winds and unpredictable storms. To the world, it's an industry shrouded in secrecy and emotion, yet in Japan, whale meat once meant post-war survival, nourishment, and culture. Today, the Japanese whaling industry represents both tradition and defiance, a billion-yen trade, employing hundreds of fishermen, shipbuilders, and processors. In towns like Kushiro and Shimonoseki, it's not just a job, it's heritage carved into the waves. Before the sun rises above the Pacific horizon, the decks of Japan's whaling vessels are already alive with preparation. The crew has been awake since 4 a.m., moving through a routine that has barely changed in decades. On the bridge, the captain studies sonar and radar readings, searching for the telltale signatures of large marine mammals. The sea outside is still dark, mist rolling low across the surface. The air smells of salt, iron, and oil, the scent of work that will last 16 hours without pause. Each member of the crew has a defined role. The harpooner, always one of the most experienced men on board, checks the compressed air harpoon cannon fixed to the bow. The weapon is calibrated carefully. Even a few millimeters of misalignment could cause the harpoon to miss its mark. The engineers test hydraulic winches and coolant pumps. The deckhands secure the ropes and prepare the cutting stations. Communication is minimal gestuurus, nods, short commands, because everyone knows the rhythm by instinct. Whales are not found by chance. Crews rely on decades of migration data, acoustic monitoring, and aerial spotting from support planes in the waters east of Hokkaido and down toward the Antarctic feeding grounds. They search for pods of mink and bride's whales. A sharp-eyed lookout perched high in the crow's nest scans for the brief vertical spout of vapor that marks a whale's breath. When it appears, a flash of mist against the silver sea, the cry Kujira echoes down the deck. The captain orders full speed. Twin diesel engines rumble to life, churning white water in their wake. The chase begins. The vessel must maintain distance yet match the whale's direction, anticipating its dives. A spotter calls out coordinates and range, while the harpooner steadies himself against the bow railing, his eyes fixed on the moving gray shadow below the surface. Timing is everything. The harpoon cannon is charged with a compressed air projectile, tipped with a penthrite explosive designed to ensure an instantaneous kill and reduce suffering. As the whale surfaces again, the harpooner breathes once, twice, then fires. A deafening crack splits the air. The harpoon arcs forward, trailing a steel cable. The explosion creates a violent burst of foam and red water. The crew moves instantly. The winch operator begins retrieving the cable, reeling the enormous body toward the ship's starboard side. Spray hits the deck, ropes tighten, men shout commands over the roar of machinery. Once alongside, the whale size dwarfs the hull, 40 feet long, weighing up to 30 tons. Its body is secured with chains and flotation buoys to keep it steady during towing. The ship now becomes a floating factory. The flensing deck, washed constantly with seawater, is cleared for work. Hydraulic cranes swing overhead, and the deckhands climb onto the slippery surface wearing knee-high rubber boots and heavy waterproof aprons. As the whale is raised partially onto the platform, excess seawater, oil, and blood stream back into the ocean through scuppers designed to prevent contamination. The chief flenser leads the cutting operation, using industrial knives up to a meter long. He begins by slicing through the thick outer layer of blubber. Each cut follows precise anatomical lines. Guided by decades of learned technique, strips of fat and meat are lifted by cranes and placed into chilled holding tanks. The air fills with the metallic scent of iron and salt. Meanwhile, recorders from the Institute of Cetacean Research measure, photograph, and log biological data: body length, sex, stomach contents, tissue samples. Though the industry is commercial, every specimen is documented as part of Japan's claimed scientific monitoring program. These records later justify quotas and support government reports submitted to international commissions. Once the outer layers are removed, internal processing begins. Specialized saws powered by hydraulic motors cut through ribs and vertebrae. Every movement is deliberate and methodical. The work is physically punishing the deck pitches in the waves. Knives dull quickly, and workers must maintain footing on a slick surface. Efficiency is critical. The crew can process an entire whale in less than 4 hours before the tropical sun or polar cold interferes with preservation. The meat is separated by grade directly on-site: red meat from the muscle for steaks and sashimi, blubber sections rich in oil for rendering, internal organs destined for research or animal feed, bones and cartilage saved for fertilizer or collagen products. Each section is lifted into refrigerated compartments below deck, where the temperature is held between -30 degrees Celsius and -50 degrees Celsius. The cold storage capacity of a single catcher ship can exceed 500 tons. Life aboard is governed by discipline. There are no rest days during an expedition that can last 50-60 days. Every man knows his place: harpooner, engineer, flenser, cook, and mechanic. Meals are short, usually rice and miso soup eaten standing beside the engine room. The sea offers no forgiveness. One slip, one misplaced rope, and a man could be dragged overboard by a moving cable. Injuries are treated in a small infirmary, often with little more than antiseptic and gauze. Once the whaling vessel docks at port, usually in Shimonoseki, Kushiro, or Abashiri, the industrial rhythm of the ocean transforms into the structured precision of land-based processing. The massive ships tie up alongside reinforced concrete piers, and refrigerated cranes begin unloading tons of frozen whale meat. The air is cold and damp, even in summer kept that way. to maintain the cold chain from sea to shore. Before a single piece of whale meat can enter the market, government regulators conduct mandatory inspection. Officers from the Japan Fisheries Agency (JFA) and scientists from the Institute of Cetacean Research (ICR) stand ready with clipboards, cameras, and portable scanners. Each carcass or frozen section is tagged at sea with a unique ID number, which links it to catch coordinates, species, date, and vessel identification. These details are cross-checked against Japan's annual whaling quota, which is authorized under domestic law and filed with the International Whaling Commission for record-keeping. The inspectors first verify that all catches belong to permitted species, typically minke whales, Balænoptera acutoristrata, bride's whales, Balænoptera bridae, and sei whales, Balænoptera borealis. Any sign of a prohibited species results in immediate investigation. Samples are sometimes taken for DNA verification, ensuring traceability from ocean to consumer. Japan's whaling authorities maintain one of the world's largest genetic databases for marine mammals, allowing random testing of retail whale meat to confirm legal origin. Once compliance checks are complete, the carcasses move into vast temperature-controlled processing halls. The interior resembles a combination of a food-grade factory and a research lab. White walls, stainless steel tables, and chilled air swirling from ceiling vents. Every cut of meat is weighed, measured, and classified by experienced graders who determine both commercial and culinary value. Whale meat is sorted into 5 primary grades: akami lean red meat, deep crimson muscle from the tail and flank, prized for sashimi and steak; koro blubber meat, thick, fatty layers often cured or sliced thinly for traditional dishes like kujira bacon; unesu lower belly meat, a marbled section valued for its tenderness and oil content; tail, fin meat, dense, muscular portions used for skewers or hot pot; offal, organ, liver, heart, and tongue, sold to specialized markets or processed for secondary use. Each section is trimmed of connective tissue, vachumsealet, and labeled with the species code, vessel name, catch area, and inspection serial. The attention to detail is remarkable, not for luxury, but for legality and control. By the time the season ends, the results of Japan's whaling operations are measured not in stories, but in tons of processed meat, oil, and data. Every figure is logged, audited, and reported with near military precision. From ship to shore, nothing is left to estimation. Each licensed catcher vessel averages 1,800 to 2,000 tons of processed whale meat per expedition season, depending on species and migration yield. Collectively, Japan's entire fleet, currently composed of 3 major catcher ships and 1 factory mothership, lands between 2,000 and 3,500 tons of whale products annually. While that number may seem vast, it represents a fraction of Japan's overall seafood production, less than 0.05% of the nation's 6 million ton marine harvest. Yet its symbolic weight far exceeds its volume. Whale meat occupies a cultural and historical category of its own, sitting alongside rice and soy sauce as an emblem of post-war endurance. Once cleared for release, shipments are divided between regional cooperatives and national wholesalers. Frozen blocks are loaded into refrigerated trucks bound for cold storage centers in Tokyo, Osaka, Nagasaki, and Sapporo. Smaller portions go to prefectural school lunch programs, while premium cuts move through Tsukiji's successor market, Toyosu, where auctions unfold in the early dawn hours. Auctioneers weigh and call bids with the same intensity used for tuna. A single top-grade akami cut from a minke whale can reach 20 yuan. 0 per kilogram I tuna attraktive. Specialty restaurants reserve entire lots in advance, sometimes years ahead, for traditional events and tasting menus. Despite declining demand, whale meat remains a niche luxury supported by nostalgia and curiosity. Post-war Japan once consumed more than 200,000 tons of whale meat annually. By contrast, modern consumption hovers between 3,000 and 4,000 tons. Surveys show that only 1 in 10 Japanese citizens eats whale meat regularly, mostly older generations or residents of coastal towns such as Taiji or Abashiri. To maintain viability, the Japan Whaling Association limits production to match demand precisely, a delicate balance preventing oversupply that could erode price stability. Cold storage inventories, nationwide average due 0.000 tons, ensuring year-round availability without flooding the market. The government occasionally purchases surplus stock to support prices and prevent waste, effectively functioning as a stabilizing buyer of last resort. Compared with major marine nations, Japan's scale is minute yet distinctive. Norway, which continues commercial whaling under reservation to the International Whaling Commission, catches around 500-600 minke whales per year, producing roughly 500 tons more meat than Japan. Iceland's output fluctuates, but rarely exceeds 1,000 tons annually. While the United States, Australia, and New Zealand enforce complete bans, Japan operates under its domestic commercial whaling law of 2019, asserting sovereignty over its exclusive economic zone. Within that framework, the maximum sustainable yield is calculated annually, ensuring populations remain above ecological thresholds established by Japan's Fisheries Research Agency. In economic scale, whale products contribute an estimated 7 yuan, $10,045, $65 million annually to Japan's seafood economy, modest beside the 1 yuan, 6 trillion tuna industry, yet politically and culturally significant. The government views whaling as both heritage protection and strategic food security diversification, reinforcing national self-reliance in protein sourcing. Behind the tonnage lies an intricate network of support industries. Shipyards in Nagasaki maintain catcher vessels. Refrigeration firms in Hokkaido handle preservation. Logistics companies in Kobe manage domestic distribution. Altogether, an estimated dose 000 to 500 people work directly or indirectly in Japan's modern whaling supply chain, from harpoon engineers to inspection officials. This ecosystem sustains remote coastal towns where other fisheries have declined. In communities like Ayukawa, residents describe the annual return of whaling ships as a sign that their ports still matter in an era dominated by industrial trawlers and global imports. The business of whaling in Japan is as complex as the ocean. It depends on part cultural preservation, part government subsidy, and part economic survival for remote coastal towns. Behind the numbers and controversies lies a structured system of wages, investment, and trade that keeps a centuries-old maritime tradition alive in the modern era. On board Japan's whaling vessels, pay is determined by rank, experience, and voyage duration. A standard catcher ship operates with 30 to 40 crew members, including harpooners, engineers, flensers, deckhands, cooks, and navigators. The hierarchy is strict, built over generations of seafaring discipline. Harpooners, the elite of the crew, are among the most skilled marksmen in maritime industries. They can earn between 7 yuan 9 million per season, approximately $45, $60, 000 high for fisheries, but earned through extreme precision and risk. Engineers and flensers average 5 yuan, $6,033, $40. Ling ling ling. Depending on seniority, deckhands and apprentices, often younger men from rural towns or fishing families, and votre 4 million tooth, $27, $000 per season, not including bonuses tied to successful expeditions. Unlike many commercial fisheries, crew members are typically contracted per season 50 to 70 days at sea, with intensive labor during that window. Food, lodging, and insurance are covered by the operating company. A successful catch means higher bonuses. Poor weather or reduced quotas can sharply cut earnings. In that sense, every voyage is both a paycheck and a gamble against nature. Whaling expeditions are expensive ventures. A single voyage by the Nishin Maru, Japan's primary factory ship, can cost upwards of 800 yuan million, $5, 6 million, to operate. Fuel, cold storage, maintenance, and crew wages account for most of the expenses. Operating companies such as Kyoto Senpaku Co., Limited, which manages Japan's modern fleet, rely on a mix of private capital and government assistance. The Japanese government allocates annual subsidies through the Fisheries Agency budget, officially listed as support for scientific research, sustainable resource management, and rural employment. Subsidies range between 2 yuan 3 billion $15, 20 million per fiscal year. These funds cover the costs of fleet modernization, satellite tracking, and environmental monitoring. Without them, commercial whaling would likely be unprofitable, a fact acknowledged even by proponents. Yet to many Japanese policymakers, the value of whaling cannot be measured purely in yen. It's a matter of sovereignty and heritage. At the consumer level, whale meat occupies a narrow but resilient segment of the national market. The average wholesale price ranges between 1 yuan, 200, and 2 yuan, 800 per kilogram, depending on the cut, fat content, and freshness. Premium sashimi-grade red meat akami can fetch more than 20 yuan, 000 per kilogram, $130. 150 inches, specialty restaurants. Annual domestic sales of whale products are valued around 7 yuan, $10 billion $45, 65 million modest compared to Japan's 1 yuan. Trillion tuna industry, but meaningful for regional economies. Profits flow through a tightly controlled distribution chain: catcher companies, processing plants, licensed wholesalers, regional retailers. Each step adds minimal markup to maintain public accessibility and avoid accusations of luxury exploitation. Government-owned cooperatives occasionally purchase surplus stock to stabilize market prices, ensuring that smaller companies and fishermen continue operations even when demand fluctuates. In the coastal towns of Kushiro, Taiji, Shimonoseki, and Abashiri, whaling is not an industry, it's an identity. The docks, repair shops, and cold storage warehouses employ hundreds of residents. The arrival of a whaling vessel means days of unloading, packaging, and shipping seasonal employment that sustains small communities. Local economies benefit indirectly as well. Fuel supply, ice factories, logistics companies, and port services all depend on the brief but intense whaling season. Restaurants advertise locally, caught kujira, to attract domestic tourists. Curious about Japan's maritime heritage, festivals celebrate the opening and closing of the season with songs, blessings, and traditional dances, blending commerce and culture into one living rhythm. The Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries estimates that the combined economic impact of whaling-related activity, including secondary services, exceeds 25 yuan billion, $160 million annually. While not transformative for Japan's $4 trillion economy, it is critical to sustaining life in towns facing aging populations and the decline of other fisheries. From whales to tuna, from tuna to squid, Japan's oceans never sleep. The same discipline and danger carry over into other fisheries: long-line tuna fleets in the Pacific, deep-sea squid harvesters in the Sea of Japan, crab fishermen braving icy Okhotsk waters. Each represents a piece of the same national story: how an island nation feeds itself through skill, precision, and endurance. In upcoming documentaries, we'll journey next to Hokkaido's giant king crab operations, where similar courage meets sub-zero waters and global competition. In the end, this isn't just about whale meat. It's about people, their resilience, their connection to the sea, and their struggle to preserve identity in a changing world. For every luxury dish served under bright city lights, there are unseen hands, cold, scarred, and calloused fighting waves far from home, would you choose modern technology or traditional methods to secure our planet's food? Future. Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for more untold stories from the edge of the world's oceans.